Good evening. Good evening. I'm John Danaker. I'm the Dean of Libraries here at Western Washington University, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to tonight's Love Letters screening and conversation. I want to begin by acknowledging that we gather today on the ancestral homelands of the Coast Salish people who have lived in the Salish Sea Basin throughout the San Juan Islands and the North Cascades watershed from time immemorial. Please join me in expressing our deepest respect and gratitude for our Indigenous neighbors, the Lummi Nation and Nooksack tribe, for their enduring care and protection of our shared lands and waterways. I also wanted to take a moment to extend a special thank you to our major partners here at Western and in our community who have given time or financial support in making tonight's program a success. I also hope that you had an opportunity to engage with some of the community partners at their tables outside the theater, and I want to thank you for your promotion of tonight's event to our partners. Our many collaborators were noted on the slides that we're showing on screen as you entered the theater, so I'd like you to just please take a moment and join me in recognizing their contributions. I consider myself very lucky to have played a small part, in the planning for tonight's event. And I can't think of a better way to celebrate International Women's Day than this remarkable film. It's a story, I was able to screen it. It's a story of courage, of strength, and always it's a story of love. Unfailingly, it's about love. We are truly in for a special evening. Now, in many ways, tonight's event came together quite fittingly through the collaborative efforts of a team of brilliant and indomitable women. And I'd like to invite two of them to the stage now to share more about their work and this amazing story. Elizabeth Joffrion is the director of the Archives and Special Collections Division here at Western Libraries, and Cheryl Crooks is the executive director of the CASCADIA International Women's Film Festival. Ladies.
Thank you, John. And good evening, everyone, and thank you all for coming in this very special evening with a world premiere of the new film by the Emmy-winning director, Greta Schiller, Love Letters. Cascadia is truly honored to be here this evening alongside Western Washington University to celebrate International Women's Day with this remarkable film and these remarkable women. Cascadia is dedicated to showcasing the films of women directors from around the world. We are the only one like it in the Pacific Northwest, and we're one of only a few in the United States. Since the festival's first festival 7 years ago, we have presented the films of more than 220 women from over 49 countries. This year, the festival, it will be our 8th, will be April 25th to the 28th at the Pickford Film Center in downtown Bellingham's Arts District. And we'll be bringing more wonderful films for you to see from all over the world, and directors coming here as well to talk about their films after the films in a question and answer session, to participate in panel discussions, to meet the audience. They love talking with the audience and talking with them about their films. And if there is an opportunity, we have them come speak to classes. And today, Greta was with a class here at Western talking to the students about filmmaking and about her films, and I was excited to be part of that. I could hear her presentation today, and we're really grateful for her for doing that. There has never been a more important time for the visions and voices of women to be heard, especially women filmmakers. Women's rights around the world are still constantly being threatened and attacked. So it's through their stories that we can learn, we can be informed, we can be educated, and we can be inspired. So I do hope that if you will come to the festival and support these women filmmakers and their stories, enjoy the films, talk to them, get to know them, and we certainly hope you enjoy this evening's film. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Cheryl. And I just want to start out by saying it's been a dream for a long time to partner with CASCADIA International Women's Film Festival in some way, and I'm so glad that all of these pieces came together and brought us together. Cheryl, this group is just such a gift for this community, and we're so grateful to have them here, and it's going to keep growing and growing. I have no doubt about that. So as John mentioned, I'm the Director of Archives and Special Collections here at Western Washington University, and in that role I have the honor and privilege of providing stewardship over archives, special collections, rare book collections across 3 different units here at Western. Our work is devoted to collecting, preserving, and making accessible historical documentation for research purposes. Documentary films rely on archival research to uncover photographs, documents, letters that tell the story in the film that they're trying to tell and to bring it to life on the screen, and you'll see that tonight, certainly in this film. We also rely on donors who help us build these collections, who donate their archives and manuscripts to Western, to other institutions who are devoted to archives. And I know that we have a number of donors in the audience tonight, and I want to thank you for helping us build those collections and making that research possible. So in that context, I have a very special announcement, and I'm thrilled to share that Dr. Catharine R. Stimpson has chosen Western Library's Center for Pacific Northwest Studies as the official repository for her professional and personal papers. Thank you. Of course, these archives and manuscripts were of great interest to a number of institutions and universities here in the United States and around the world. And we are profoundly grateful that Catharine and her family has chosen Western and her hometown of Bellingham for this honor. Thank you, Catharine. As a pioneer of women and gender studies and feminist criticism, her papers document a lifetime of achievements and a prolific body of scholarship, research, writing, and public service. Preserved for posterity, her work will be of significant interest to historians, to people across an array of disciplines for many, many years to come. And her perspective will continue to contribute to the ongoing movements of social justice and women's rights. Closer to home, these papers will support generations of student research in Western's new Department of Women, Gender, and Sexuality Studies. We're rocking it here at Western for women on International Women's Day. So quickly, her papers will join previous donations from the Stimpson family and those of her brother, Edward W. Stimpson, who was a pioneer, leader in the field of aviation. We're thrilled to have so many of the Stimpsons here in the audience tonight, both close family and extended family. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your support over the years, and thank you for your confidence in preserving your family's legacy. Thank you. I told Cheryl to remind me when I forgot to say this. So this is how this works tonight. There'll be a film, a wonderful film, Love Letters. You'll see some material in this film that are actually going to be held in the archives in the future. So get your research interests up. Then we're going to have an intermission. The screen will rise, the curtains will close, and we'll set up the stage and bring our honored guests, Kate Stimpson, Liz Wood, and Greta Schiller, to the stage to have a panel discussion. So stick around when the lights come up. Thank you.
From the beginning of time, women were storytellers, the keepers of...
Good evening, everybody. What an incredible film, right? Let's just put my hand. My name is Allison Giffen, and I am a professor in the new Women, Gender, and Sexuality Studies Department. And I am just thrilled to be able to access this incredible archive that has been gifted to us by Dr. Stimpson. So I have the distinct pleasure this evening to introduce to you our honored guests. And I'll begin with Catharine R. Stimpson. Dr. Stimpson is a trailblazing feminist scholar, right? A prolific author, she's written scores of articles, reviews, collections, and novels. Her collection of scholarly essays, Where the Meanings Are, Feminism and Cultural Spaces, was a landmark work that continues to influence students and scholars around the world. Like so many others, I've been the beneficiary of Dr. Stimpson's rich legacy. As an alumna of Barnard, I can tell you that the Barnard Women's Center, of which she was the founding director, was the heart of that storied institution. Of course, Dr. Stimpson was also the founding editor of Signs, Journal of Women in Culture and Society, a flagship publication in feminist studies. She has held numerous leadership positions, too many to enumerate tonight here, so I'll just hit some of the highlights. She has served as president of the Modern Language Association, dean of the Graduate School, and vice provost of graduate education at Rutgers, and dean of the Graduate Schools of Arts and Science at NYU. She served as chair of the New York State Council for the Humanities and the National Council for Research on Women, and director of the Fellows Program at the MacArthur Foundation. Dr. Stimpson is currently Dean Emerita and Professor Emerita at NYU and co-chair of the National Advisory Council of Creative Capital. And I just want to say that I am so honored to have met you and to be able to call you Kate.
Well, better Kate than some things I could think of.
I am also so honored to have met and to introduce to you Dr. Elizabeth Wood, who has been a remarkable influence on the study of music. Dr. Wood is a groundbreaking scholar and one of the founders of New Directions in Modern Musicology. A prolific and distinguished writer, her book, Queering the Pitch, The New Lesbian and Gay Musicology, radically transformed the field of music theory. Dr. Wood was born, as we saw, in Australia and is the author of a 2-volume history of Australian opera, as well as a series of award-winning critical studies of Ethel Smythe, a British composer, writer, conductor, and suffragette. Dr. Wood also co-edited the article on lesbian and gay music for the New Grove Dictionary of Music. She currently chairs the advisory board of HUB, a musicology and ethnomusicology research center at the Elder Conservatorium of Music at the University of Adelaide in South Australia, where an international research fellowship in musicology has been established in her name. Welcome, Elizabeth. But there's more. Greta Schiller is an award-winning producer and director of documentary films and co-founder of Jezebel Productions, a nonprofit women's production company founded in 1984. She has produced over a dozen films since then, and her work recenters in the cultural narrative, the overlooked histories of marginalized groups. Her newest project is The 5 Demands, released by Icarus Films and playing now in theaters. It was produced with support from the NEH, the NEA, the New York State Council on the Arts, and the Library of Congress Ken Burns Prize. Her 1984 landmark film, Before Stonewall, The Making of a Gay and Lesbian Community, received many accolades, including being nominated for a Grand Jury Prize at Sundance Film Festival and 2 Emmy Awards. Also of note is her rich and exciting career. In her rich and exciting career, and these are just a few of the highlights. Her film, International Sweethearts of Rhythm from 1986, another highly decorated documentary that treats African-American women musicians in the 1930s and 1940s. Paris Was a Woman from 1995, and The Man Who Drove with Mandela from 1998. Her highly awarded feature documentary, The Land of Azaba from 2020, focuses on the Spanish-Portuguese border and treats climate change and biodiversity loss. Over the last 35 years, her films have screened at some of the most prestigious international film festivals, making her one of the most respected, longest producing independent filmmakers of her generation. Greta has the rare distinction of being awarded 2 Fulbright Fellowships, the first ever US-UK Fulbright Arts Fellowship in Film in 1989-1990, and a Global Fulbright Award in 2016-2017. Welcome. And thank you. And finally, our interviewer is Audrey Sager, who is president of the CASCADIA International Women's Film Festival. Audrey was a founding partner in the New York City law firm of Sager, Gellerman, and Eisnerin, and specialized in the field of matrimonial law. I think that's kind of so fitting. She has been named as a super lawyer each year from 2006 to 2017 and was recognized as a leading lawyer in New York State. She is a fellow of the American Academy of Matrimonial Lawyers and was a vice president of the Women's Bar Association of the state of New York. Both she and her husband, Stephen Gellerman, are movie lovers who relocated to Bow, Washington in 2014, where they are enjoying the Pacific Northwest lifestyle. Thank you, everyone. Before we begin, we'd like to give a little gift to Greta.
On behalf of Cascadia, we'd like to thank Greta Schiller for this wonderful film, and especially for allowing Cascadia to have the world premiere tonight.
When they read my bio, I'm like, who are they talking about? That can't be me.
You know, I just found out that I am in the company of 3 Fulbright scholars, and I am really humbled as a mere matrimonial lawyer from New York. However, it is my privilege to share this stage with these 3 women, an Emmy award-winning director, a musicologist who had the strength and courage to do what she did and win custody and fight that war, and Dr. Stimpson, who gave the foundation to the study of women's rights, the platform, the discipline that we have today. So thank you all. So I found this film to be a love story more than anything else. And I know that, Greta, you were friends with these 2 women. What made you want to bring this story to us all?
Well, I was friends with them for a really long time before I knew about the struggle they went through to be able to be together. And so when Liz told me the story, I was like, okay, that is such an important part of history that has never been told. But I didn't want it to be just about, you know, a court case or a battle for kids. I wanted it to be about a love story. Because I felt like, first of all, you very rarely see lesbian love stories on any kind on screen, fiction or documentary. And you never see old people on screen, very rarely. You know, let's face it.
I don't know what's worse, being called a lesbian lesbian or an old person.
Yeah, true, exactly. And because they don't behave, they don't think, they don't act like old people, it was just an exhilarating, and it was a story. And very early on, I decided I just wanted it to be about them. I didn't want anybody else's point of view, comment, anything. I just wanted it to be their story in their own words.
So there were times where you used animation in your film. And I bet it was the first time, Kate, that you were ever a cartoon. Is that... So tell me... Yeah, no?
No. I'm trying to use the mic properly. I was instructed by a 7-year-old girl named Daisy earlier in the day.
Yeah.
And I just want to make sure that I am using this microphone correctly. The first time I've ever been a cartoon, oh, you are not one of 7 children.
Gotcha. So what made you turn to animation?
Well, it was the only way to do it, because I had these tapes that they made these tapes. I mean, what a gift! How lucky for me that they made audio tapes. Of course, because Liz was a musicologist, so she knew about audio, and it was a way to communicate with kids. And then I just thought, I don't want to really make it, realistic. I wanted to make it stay in the realm of not fantasy, but I didn't want a realistic depiction of that, and I couldn't think of any other way to tell the story without the animation. And then, of course, in the courtroom, which is a very private and sealed thing, of which I was given the privilege of reading the transcripts, which are harrowing, I had to just narrow it down to just the key essence that fit the story. And so we use those courtroom-style drawings in order to represent that pain, trauma, and agony that story that represents in the film.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you, Liz. You've done. You collaborated with Greta in mapping the feelings of this movie. Tell us a little about that.
In a way.
Yeah.
I mean, Greta's been in charge of this all along, but she gave me the opportunity. She said, Liz, if you've got any musical suggestions that can perhaps express your feelings at the time, the experience at the time. This is so new to me, this film, in a weird way, that I can't remember now what the music was.
Well, we love Dusty Springfield.
We all
yes,
adore Dusty Springfield and Helen Reddy singing I Am Woman, Hear Me Roar, which was a big hit with the Australian feminists. But I did detect some of the music that is from my field, if you like, but also which I share with Catharine. We have eclectic tastes. But it was an interesting thought. How does music represent or memorialize our experiences? And I think in some ways I was moved by it, listening to it for the first time here, that it fitted.
It did.
Very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So here you are. You come to New York on a Fulbright, and you meet this lovely lady, and you land in the middle, as you say, of the powerhouse of the women's movement in New York City, from Adelaide, Australia. What was that impact upon you?
Stunning. I mean, Kate Millett lived down the road. In that first couple of weeks of meeting Catharine, I can't even go through the number of names of extraordinary women, but Adelaide wasn't a backwater. We were the first country, other than New Zealand. South Australia was the first country in 1894 to give women the vote. Say it. And although this court case still sort of distresses me today, Australia was changing, and we had a Supreme Family Court in Canberra where we would have gone to appeal. And I just simply want to say that a feminist judge, the daughter of a previous Prime Minister, Elizabeth Evatt, headed that court, and they had just put out a royal commission saying that the wishes of children of 14 and over were of primary importance.
Well,
so that was a big change.
It took a long time for the courts to really accept the concept of best interest of the child.
It did take.
And it took a long time. And once they accepted that, I think the schoolmistress really brought out that the best interests of your children were with you. So you meet this powerhouse of a woman, and you, such a romantic.
Yes.
Yes, love at first sight. I mean, come on. So tell me, Kate, and after that intimacy of that film, calling you Kate kind of comes easy, Dr. Stimpson.
Whatever you say.
Yes. So how did you know she was the one?
Well, I look at myself on that film, and I hear myself saying those things, and I believe they're true, even in the retrospect of seeing them. I think there are moments when you simply have, you can't call it an extraterrestrial knowledge, but you do have a kind of intuition. And I have always thought of I love footnotes. I really love footnotes. I had always thought of myself as a rational person. But one has to, it's a part of the process of discovery of how you balance reason, intuition, a kind of knowledge that is not the result of critical thinking, but the kind of knowledge that you say, this is the path I must follow. And it is, I'm not saying I'm a saint, but it is a knowledge that saints sometimes have, visionaries sometimes have. It is simply a sense of, there it is, as if you had found a nugget of the self. And that nugget of yourself, that kernel, had to be permitted to flourish.
Liz.
I just want to, Liz, the music, the opera music that is in the opening when you said you come to New York, this is operatic. You told me what to use there. Thank you. And you also came up with a piece of music to use when you're walking and reading the Adrian Rich poem, and the osprey comes and the mama osprey brings the fish. You didn't tell me where to use it. You just recommended that music. I just said, I'm looking for this mood, and then you said, we'll try this and that.
Thank you.
By the way.
But you found it.
Yeah,
You found
just
it.
saying,
You
just
found
saying.
the right part.
Now we're really getting underway, because I just want to add that Jeanette Winterson, the novelist, the lesbian novelist in England, said, you know it because it's written on the skin. And I like that.
Well, you knew it. You knew when you went back to Adelaide what your future was going to be.
Oh, no.
You didn't.
Oh, no.
Tell us.
I knew it was hard to leave Australia for the first time and come to New York, and then I had the burning bush experience of being in Times Square and thinking, I've got to be here. I can be myself here. I mean, that was really extraordinary feeling. I knew, because a couple of composers, women I'd met, said, you're strong, you'll be back. I knew that I had to work how to come back. And that, it was really very difficult. I didn't have a complete sense of the future, of course. I just knew I had to be with her. And the kids.
And the kids.
And the kids.
And the
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah.
So, I'd like you both, if you would be so kind, as to tell this audience about consciousness-raising groups of the 70s. Some of you know.
Well, I have a confession to make. And first I have to thank you for staying after the film, and thank you for responding to it so positively. And I think we all up here really, really appreciate you being here and appreciate your response. I'm happy to talk about consciousness-raising groups, but here's a confession. I never belonged to one. All of my friends belonged to one. I talked to people. We went over things, but I never formally belonged to a consciousness-raising group. But this is what they told me about it. And what they said was, I think, first, the importance of conversation among people. Secondly, that you learn to trust. And one of the hardest, we all know, trust has to be earned. And they said they would earn each other's trust. Third, you had to be able to enter into enormously difficult conversations about differences among women, about differences in the group, but you had to enter into enormously difficult conversations with yourself.
Okay. As a member of a consciousness-raising group, we do get on so well together. As a member of a consciousness-raising group, I can tell you that, first of all, it's democratic. You usually sit in a circle. There is absolutely no interrupting. So you learn to listen very quickly, and you may go to a meeting where you don't even get to talk, but you listen. And whoever wishes to say something that's on their mind or that they're wanting to understand better takes the discussion, begins the discussion, and people listen, and they either chip in or not. But there is no hierarchy of leadership or of spokesperson. It's all about listening, and then over time finding your voice and finding enormous connections among each other. I would recommend it for all ages as a means of raising your consciousness and of also finding your inner voice.
And also, remember, at the same time, there were men's consciousness-raising groups that were formed. And this maybe, Audrey, I don't know if you would agree with me or not, but it seems to me that the model of consciousness-raising, and all the metaphors of your consciousness coming out of the basement of your unconscious and rising into the light of your awareness of them, I think maybe a model also for restorative justice and the groups that are held, beginning to be held more often between victims and victimizers, to see if some common ground can be found despite the difficulties. They're a great tribute, actually, to the possibilities of people becoming better through understanding each other.
It was also, consciousness raising was also a stepping stone to activism, because you were inevitably all going to take part in whatever activity or movement there was to be the next week, etc. So,
do you think that those kinds of groups helped you define your vision and your next steps?
yes, absolutely. But also during the court procedure, I had a special group of friends who called themselves the divorce group, because they'd been through not similar, but separations or difficult endings of relationship. That was an incredibly helpful consciousness-raising group too.
Well, I think the support systems, certainly during the court case, must have been incredibly powerful for you and helpful, because the strength you need, where did you find that? Was it from Kate?
It was from both of us. I mean, it was from the children, but Catharine had sort of set up what she called a kitchen cabinet in New York, and they would I had to educate lawyers, I had to educate everyone who was involved, the court-appointed counsellors. We had to educate them about who we were and what the handicaps and obstacles were. And so it was a great help to have galleys of forthcoming books that Catharine would send over post-haste. It was a process where, although we had absolutely no power about the outcome, and it was the most insecure moment of one's life, if you think of it, at the same time we had strategic powers and could take part in thinking this through, working out, as I say, an educational process, and then trusting to the system. My lawyer had never, ever had a custody case before. He was young, and he took it on. And I really think because he'd never had one, he put his heart and soul into this. So there were many facets of encouraging people who were in our group to keep the faith.
Well, you're talking about strategy. It probably was a brilliant strategy to keep you out of the courtroom.
Essential.
And
Oh my God.
no, I think she would have been.
It's exactly what I say in the film.
Yeah.
If I had, one, going to Australia, but two, if I'd shown up in that courtroom, even though I might have been dressed in the primmest possible way I could have imagined, or managed, or coped with, it would have been idiotic. It just would have been. So I had to stay out of it. I had to stay in America and do what I could.
Of course.
But no, Liz had to be there with her supporters in the courtroom. I was in America doing what I could. And we hoped. And we also thought, as Liz says in the film, we might have to do it again and again and again.
Now?
And we were prepared to do that.
Can I just say something that even thinking about it tonight still upsets me enormously? And I want to say that I'm sure in this audience are women who, as children, went through contested custody cases or divorces. You never quite get over it because of the insecurity involved and because of the care you try to take of the children's feelings. But it's the unknown and the terror of being torn apart that never really leaves you. So thank you, anyone in the audience who's been through this, for your warmth and your kindness in being here tonight.
I think custody and the custody litigation that at least I went through it with you, with my clients, and I know it reverberates forever. But you have so much love around you, it's okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So you wanted to
Well, I
add.
just had a few things that I thought as they were talking. One, about why I wanted to make the film. In many ways, of course, I knew Kate is like, Miss Muckety Muck in the gender women's studies field. So I knew her from afar. And she also happened to be the dean at Rutgers when my wife was getting her PhD there. So I also knew her vaguely through that. But it wasn't until we happened to both live on the North Fork of Long Island in this little village that we really became friends. And it was through children. It was because their grandson was the same age as my daughter, so we had play dates, and they had play dates. So we got to sort of get to be better friends through the being mothers and grandmothers. And also for me, it was like an homage to the people who came before me. Because really, if they hadn't done what they did, I wouldn't have been able to adopt my daughter. It's that simple and that direct, And that's really an important thing to me. And then there was one other thing about children. Oh yeah, the innocence of children, the way they ask questions, how a different set of their grandchildren said, are you two married? And the same thing happened with my daughter. One day she asked us, why aren't you getting married? And we're like, oh, it's patriarchal. We don't want to do that. And she goes, you have to get married. What if Trump gets elected and takes it away? And we were like, oh yeah, okay, you're smarter than us. Let's do that,
So you got married.
Yeah, so we got married. Under the orders of, a 14-year-old.
Could I just... Another reason I think why we were delighted, very happy that Greta wanted to make this, is because of the current moment. We went through this years ago, and it was awful horror that I feel repetitions occurring. When I look at the list of banned books, when I see the laws that are being passed, 23 states, I believe it is, 23 states that have passed laws that limiting LGBTQ rights, and also what I see, what's happening to trans kids and their families. So we hoped, among other things, that our story would not simply be seen as something that couldn't happen again. We hoped that our story would not be in the realm of, well, a pretty fairy tale that happened in the past. We hoped that it would give some encouragement to younger trans people, younger lesbians, younger gay men, younger queers, younger non-binary people, that it's okay. And you fight and you win some and you lose some, but it's okay. And it can be done. And you can live on to a happy old age, you know.
That's one of my favorite scenes. I mean, when we were in the editing room and we were listening to the tapes and trying to match, audio with picture, and we had them walking on the beach in their 80s, and she says, "My octogenarian lover." Alex and I in the editing room were like just going insane at how beautiful that was.
Well, it's obvious that you two have so much fun together, and it seems like that was always ever present, yes? And that helped you get through it all.
Well, isn't that, I mean, here I consult the wisdom of our audience. Long relationships need humor. And they need forgiveness, you know.
Yes.
And that you have to be able to laugh at yourself and laugh with each other. I mean, I think that's probably true of nearly every aspect of life. And I think one sign of an authoritarian government is that the humor often seems forced or imposed or non-existent. Authoritarian leaders don't like being laughed at, as far as I know. And we have to have it all, I think, all of us in our relationships. Grind your teeth and laugh.
Liz, you were going to say something about humor, I think. No? Well, I have a question for all three of you. Do you think you are now living your authentic lives?
I think we've been living our authentic life for some time. Let's roll the years back. Yes, I do. But I think, what does that mean when life around you, the political life and everything else is changing? So I think I'm feeling very challenged by our changing times. I came to this country in love with America and all it promises its immigrants and all you want to give to it and be part of it. I still feel that. And whatever we can do to bring joy and song and laughter and also political activism, we will do this year. But I still love America, and we are still laughing.
Well, I believe, is there anything you'd like to add? One other question for you, Kate, if I may. You chose Bellingham as the seat for your documents, your intimacies, your fragile little secrets, and all. And can you just share with this audience the reason why?
Oh, I said earlier, it was a very simple decision. In fact, it wasn't even a decision at all. It wasn't a weighing of pros and cons. In no particular order, the custodians, I trusted the custodians of the archives here. I have great admiration for Western Washington University. I think it has terrific leadership. I am so proud of the honorary degree I got a few years ago. And I knew that the archives would not just be tossed into a kind of corner and left to mold, but they would be taken care of in a combination of the state archives and the university archives, and I trusted the university standards. A second reason is that my family archives were already there. Stimpson family archives, primarily of my father, Edward K. Stimpson, a doctor, and of my mother, Kitty Stimpson, Catharine C. Stimpson, yeah. And I know that many of people in the audience knew her, and I loved and respected her, and I was delighted to join the family, as it were, as well as my brother Edward, who had been such a force in aviation and been such a decent and honorable man. And probably I wanted to come home. Bellingham, yes, I'm a New Yorker. I am a New Yorker. But Bellingham is where I was born, St. Luke's Hospital. I went to the campus school. I went to Fairhaven Junior High School. I went to Bellingham High School. I was telling some people earlier at Bellingham High School, I was the president of the pep club. And I remember, Friday night in the rain watching the football team. I was not permitted to march. I was just supposed to sit in the stand and cheer on, which I did. But before I knew the New York Yankees, as I've said before I knew the New York Mets, I knew the Red Raiders, and I knew the Vikings. And it is an act of kindness on my part. You had to hear a little bit of me singing Cole Porter. I am sparing you the memory of my rendition of the Bellingham High School fight song. Oh, is that applause and encouragement to sing it? So and I also felt that earlier today I quoted a poem from my aunt, Elizabeth Watts Henley, about Bellingham and its growth. And I also thought this is a place, it's not the Bellingham I grew up in by any means, but I thought this is a place that is capable of self-reckoning. I've read the local histories by Curtis Smith and by Brian Griffin, and I've read the Whatcom County Historical Society records. It's a place capable of self-reckoning. It's a place that's capable of conservation of the good. It's a place that believes in creativity, in creating a path to the future. And not only did I want to come home, I trusted the place it was going to be when all I had here was an awful lot of paper. And also to my family, a lot of my family is here, and I love them dearly, and I thank them for being here and for being loyal and supportive to me during all these years.
Musicians love to have the last cadence.
So do big mouths.
I simply want to say, I'm still waiting to see the last of the Mary Tyler Moore Show.
You saw us walking with our canes, going down to the beach. We are not necessarily the hippest people in the world when it comes to the media. But Liz, I do have to remind you, we can find it on YouTube.
Would you like to add something?
Well, I just wanted to express my thanks and my gratitude to Ruth and Beth and Cheryl, who have given us a fabulous time in Bellingham, my first time here. And as I said at the reception, you can take the girl out of Bellingham, but you can't take Bellingham out of the woman. And that's clearly the case here. And to Kate and Liz, to know them is to love them. And they trusted me to tell their story. I know they're not comfortable with every single frame, but they gave me creative control. That's a gift. And to Audrey for being a fabulous moderator.
Well, thank you.
And on that very good note, I'd say good night, and I thank you, Beth and Cheryl and John, for a great job. Thank you.
Good night, everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.